Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jessica Morehouse and this channel is about all things money, and I'm very excited to dive into this video because this is something that I've wanted to do for a while. It is a topic that I of course go very in-depth in my Wealth Building Blueprint for Canadians course, but I get questions all the time from people who watch this channel or listen to my podcast saying, you talk a lot about, index investing. How do I do that? What does that mean? And so for this video, I'm going to show you how to set up your own DIY ETF portfolio using BMO ETFs. Now, BMO ETFs has graciously sponsored this video, so big thank you to BMO ETFs. You can find more information about them at their website, bmoetfs.com. They also have a lot of great free tools and educational resources, some of which I will be using in this video to show you how to set up your portfolio. But that is also why I'm going to be using BMO ETFs as examples for how to construct a portfolio. So I've said portfolio a million times, and I'm going to say it a million more because that is what this video is going to be focused on. So let's get to the good stuff. Let's get started. Let's talk about how to set up your own DIY ETF portfolio with BMO ETFs. Okay, first I'm going to tell you, it's not really a secret, but I feel like it's something that people don't really know that much about. I feel like it does not get enough attention. The easiest way to get started, instead of trying to figure out how to construct your own portfolio and rebalance your portfolio and all that headache, is just to invest in an asset allocation ETF. These are amazing products that I wish were around when I first started. Basically, it is an ETF of ETFs. It rebalances itself, so you do not have to do that. It is basically a pre-constructed portfolio for you to invest in. So let me kind of show two examples by BMO to give you an idea of what that actually means, what it looks like, what is the breakdown. Okay, so I'm going to show you two examples of asset allocation ETFs by BMO. So we've got ZBAL, that's the BMO Balanced ETF, and you can find this information on their website. So let's look at the holdings to show you exactly what I mean. So it in it of itself is an ETF with the ticker symbol ZBAL. But as you can see, it is comprised of ETFs itself. So we've got this bond index ETF, we've got this S&P 500 index, et cetera, quite a few ETFs in here. And here are each of those ETFs weightings inside of the asset allocation ETF. As you can see, the overall asset allocation is 62.43% in equities or stocks, and 37.45% in fixed income, and a little bit of cash, and the number of holdings in total is 10. And another example is ZGROW, the BMO Growth ETF. For someone who's probably more like me, it can take on a little bit more risk. The allocation is, about 80-20 for equities to fixed income. It has 10 holdings as well, and here are all the ETFs inside and their weightings. And if you scroll below, you can find more specific information like geographic allocation. So as you can see, the heaviest weighting is in Canada, then the US, Japan, China, the UK, etc. And you can actually download the fact sheet too if you want to get more information about this fund as well, such as, when it started, what the MER is, which is super important. As you can see, it's only 0.2%, and more information can be found in this fact sheet. One last thing, which you can find here, just on any of the ETFs pages, is this asset allocation investing white paper. Highly recommend you read this resource before investing in one of their asset allocation ETFs. Just has some good information about how do they work, what's involved, what are some things you should know before diving in. So that is what asset allocation ETFs are all about. But if you want more freedom and flexibility, and that's kind of, me, that's why I chose not to invest in an asset allocation ETF, even though I'm a big fan of them. If you want to, just be more do it yourself, well, then you're going to have to construct your own portfolio. And this is a tool that is free on BMO ETF's website that I will link in the description of this video. So we're going to dive in. I'm going to show you how I'm going to construct a kind of a model portfolio based on, some criteria that I will share in a little bit to give you an idea of what does it actually mean to put all these elements together and then implement it with your discount brokerage. Okay, so this is BMO BMO ETFs portfolio generator tool. Again, I will link to it in the description of this video so you can play around with it yourself. So it has preset model portfolios in here already to help you create a diversified index portfolio with BMO ETFs, of course. And then you can tweak it to your personal preference. So we're going to use, as an example investor, let's say someone who is 35, they plan to retire by 65. So they have a 30-year time horizon. They have a very high tolerance for risk. And let's say they've also already determined that their ideal asset allocation is 90% equities and 10% fixed income. They're also going to be starting with a $100,000 initial investment, just for this example, and they will continue to contribute $1,000 per month after that. So I'm going to select one of their preset models. I'm going to do this growth ETF, and I'm going to hit load. It already pre-populates some of the ETFs that you may want in your portfolio. So just because maybe I want to simplify it, I'm going to get rid of just a few of these. I'm going to get rid of this one, and I'm going to get rid of this one. So now we're left with 5 ETFs. We've got ZEG, that is for our bonds. We've got ZSP, that is our S&P 500 US stock market exposure. We've got ZCN, that is our S&P TSX capped composite index, that is our Canadian stock market exposure. We've got ZEA, that is our international stock market exposure. And lastly, we've got ZEM, that is our emerging markets stock market exposure. Then you're going to want to hit this allocate portfolio button. And this is where you can do kind of some tweaking. So it already has some preset weightings for each ETF, but you can change it however you like. So I'm going to just tweak it a little bit for my own personal preference. Okay, perfect. So I've got 10% for my bonds, and then the rest, 90%, is distributed amongst these equities. Now, what's cool about this tool is it will show you, based on your portfolio, what the historical returns would have been. And also you can find out the MERs of all the funds, the sector and country breakdown, and so much more. Now, although, past returns do not guarantee future returns, this tool can still be helpful to see the importance of diversification, but also setting the right asset allocation for your risk tolerance to see, your portfolio's volatility and goal, growth versus income. Now, what's pretty cool too is it'll also show you, based on your portfolio that you made, historical returns. So you can go 1 year all the way to 10 years. Let's just do 3 years and see how that would have performed. So it's just showing an example of if you invested $10,000, the ending value would be just under $14,000. So it would have been a return of, about $3,800. And you can take a look at the percent returns of the portfolio only, and it will show you the highs and lows of the portfolio. This was March 2020. We all remember that. And there you go. And also you can kind of go down here and it'll show you also it's, 12-month trailing yield, the MERs of all the different ETFs, and below here, portfolio performance. So it'll show you, since inception, and, 1 month, 3 month, year to date, 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, et cetera, et cetera. Lots of great information it can show you there. And also just like the breakdown of your portfolio, and then also the sector breakdown, geographical exposure, all of that here. And just to give you an idea of what this would look like in a spreadsheet, I'm going to give you a little sneak peek of the spreadsheet that I created that is available in my investing course. This is how you would organize everything. So we already have those target allocations. There's the ticker symbol, and then you'd put the full ETF name and categorize it, is it Canadian bonds or US stocks, and then by its asset class. And then, you can put in, let's say we're going to contribute $10,000 or as our initial contribution to this DIY core portfolio of ours. It will tell you how much you need to buy of each of them for its target allocation. Okay, so that's how you set up your core portfolio for, a big long-term goal such as retirement. But what about that satellite portfolio, that little thing on the side to have some fun with? Well, basically, here's how you should construct it. There's a few things that you need to kind of write down or get organized before just investing in whatever you want, basically. So first, you need to have a plan. Just much like with your core portfolio, you have a plan, you set your goal, your time horizon, what your risk tolerance is, you have an idea of how much you need at the end of that goal, all of those really important elements. You need to do the same for your satellite portfolio. It's also important for you to figure out how much are we spending. One thing that I see a lot of investors do is looking at their entire portfolio, so that is their core portfolio plus their satellite portfolio, and then allocate a certain percentage of that whole portfolio for their satellite portfolio. I told you I was going to say portfolio a million more times, and here we are. So that could look like between 5 and 10%. That's typically the range that I see people sticking with. I actually don't do that. What I do instead, I give myself more of a dollar amount as opposed to a percentage amount, but it's really, really important for you to have a specific either a dollar or percentage amount that you stay within, because it can be very tempting to just, oh, well, I've got some extra money in my emergency fund that's just sitting there. I'll just use that to buy some, growth stocks. That is not what you want to do. Do not touch your emergency fund. It is meant to stay there for emergencies. Just have a specific limit, whether that's a percentage or dollar, and stay within that. Don't go overboard because it can be very tempting. Then the other thing you're gonna have to figure out too, much like with your core portfolio, is what is your asset allocation? So, most likely it will be 100% equities, but like how much are you spending for this ETF or this ETF and this ETF? Are you gonna do, if it's, for example, and I'll show you an example in a moment, 3 different ETFs, are you gonna divide them equally? So it's like 33% across the board. Is it gonna be 2 ETFs are gonna have, 40%, and then the last ETF is going to have 20% of the amount that you want to spend? What is the asset allocation of that particular satellite portfolio? Now, with all that said, let me show you an example of what it could look like to set up a satellite portfolio. So when it comes to your satellite portfolio, obviously it is totally up to you what you want to invest in. But to give you an example, you may want to look at, BMO's innovation ETFs, which they have a bunch of. I did do a video on this recently, so I'm going to link to it in the description of this video, so make sure to check it out. But for this example, let's say that I've done my research and I've decided I want to invest in ZCLN, that's the BMO Clean Energy Index ETF. I'm going to also invest in ZINT, the BMO Next Generation Internet Innovation Index ETF. And lastly, ZWB, the BMO Covered Call Canadian Banks ETF. So all of these can be found on their website. You can also take a look at, their holdings. For example, this is obviously all of the major banks. You can also take a look at price and performance just to see how has this fared. Let's say in the past year, this covered call one has done fairly well. And so, do your research, see what makes the most sense for you. But when you're ready, I'm going to just show you that spreadsheet again. And I put everything in here. So, everything is equities. I can just label everything as international stocks because pretty much all of them have US, Europe, Asia, and Canada. So it's just easier to label it as international stocks. Here's the names of the ETFs and the tickers. And then you decide how much you want to, put in. Maybe you're just starting with $5,000. And then you have to decide what is the target allocation? How much are you going to buy of each ETF? So, fairly easily, you could just do, 33% and then 34% at the end. So it gets 100, or very well, you may feel really strongly about investing in the Clean Energy Index ETF. So maybe you want to put 50% there, 30% in the covered call, and then we've got 20% for the Internet Innovation ETF. And then here it'll show you, with your initial contribution, how should you divide your dollars to meet this target allocation. And that's pretty much it. The only thing you then have to do as a DIY investor with your core portfolio and your satellite portfolio, along with your investment plan, that kind of guide, is to monitor your portfolios, rebalance when necessary, and make any adjustments when you need, whenever there's some sort of, change in basically your investment plan. If your risk tolerance has changed, maybe it's more aggressive, you can, tweak your asset allocation for your core portfolio. Or maybe, you've been investing in something in your satellite portfolio for quite a long time and you realize it doesn't actually align with your personal values anymore or with your goal, then you can sell it and, maybe buy something that's a better fit. It's just important to, again, have that plan, monitor your portfolios, make adjustments, and rebalance to your target asset allocation. And that's pretty much it. I mean, that's the kind of glory I find of like passive investing or long-term investing is there's not either, it's not about day trading or doing anything crazy. It's just about implementing it and then maintaining it, which is more my style of investing and more my speed, quite honestly. So that is it. I hope this was a helpful video. Thank you so much to BMO ETFs for sponsoring this video. Make sure to check out that tool. I will link it in the description for this video, but also make sure to check out all of their free resources and tools on their website, bmoetfs.com. So that is it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already subscribed to this channel. I also want to say a huge thank you to everyone who has subscribed, because we've cracked the 10,000 subscriber number already. I'm so thrilled and can't wait to get to 15 and 20 and onward and upward. So thank you so much for watching and supporting this channel. I will see you in my next video, which will be very soon, I promise.